part of becoming an online personality is establishing an awareness of the crowd. Not even like a general fan base, but the power to get people to talk about you. A fan base only cements that relationship between creator and viewer, but spreading awareness and getting your name out there will not only grow said fan base, but also having name recognition keeps you in the public eye. The internet loves to talk about other people. I mean, that's basically what the commentary community is. It's a bunch of people that like to talk about other public figures. But even though the most notable names on the internet have that name recognition and fanfare, that would all pale in comparison to how much the internet loves talking about lolcows.
We made Barbie girl in a Barbie world. My boobs are fantastic and I'm elastic.
Lolcows are the train wrecks of the internet that people can't look away from. These characters serve as the guilty pleasures of the online world. They are defined as individuals who unwittingly become the subject of online ridicule and fascination. A person whose eccentric or foolish behavior can be exploited to amuse others. The term lolcow derives from the concept of these online personalities being a highlight of amusement for online denizens to mock and make fun of endlessly, due to the overabundance of content that lolcows make publicly available to be consumed online. Online gawkers milk these people for content, which can literally be anything so long as it features the subject of mockery. The best kind of lolcow content is anything that can be used to either humiliate, mock, or be critical of the uploader's character and perception. Most lolcows have several common characteristics, which include things such as lolcows often crave attention and actively seek it out through their online presence. They may engage in provocative or controversial actions, or make outlandish statements to garner reactions from others. Lolcows frequently hold and express opinions that are considered extreme, offensive, or out of touch with societal norms. These opinions often spark heated debates and attract attention from both supporters and critics. A part of what makes a lolcow a subject of mockery on the internet is that they tend to act, well, a bit quirky, let's just say. Lolcows may display eccentric or unusual behavior that sets them apart from the mainstream. And this could include things like unconventional fashion choices, bizarre hobbies, or idiocentric mannerisms that capture the curiosity of the online observer. Many lolcows have a tendency to overshare personal details about their own lives, often without considering the potential consequences that could bring. This could include sharing intimate details about their personal lives, their own personal struggles, or engaging in public feuds, which further fuels the interest and scrutiny from online communities. Lolcows often lack self-awareness and fail to recognize how their actions and behaviors are perceived by other people. They may be oblivious to the ridicule and mockery they receive, which only adds to their status as a subject of fascination. Now, although lolcows are fun to discuss and talk about, there's been a moral debate as to whether or not we should be engaging with these people at all. The commentary community doesn't really want to bring any more attention to a lolcow, not only because it's just giving them what they want, but more oftentimes than not, lolcows are just people who don't deserve the attention. Another common trait between some of the most infamous lolcows that is important to mention is that on top of their attention-seeking behavior, they're also just massive assholes. And when each lolcow is just as eccentric and crazy as the next one, it would seem rather redundant to talk about repeating behaviors that exist amongst a bunch of assholes. But there's also the argument that a lot of these people are not just a danger to themselves, but are a danger to other people. And it's better to have a danger to society document their own examples of their dangerous behavior than to remain dormant and fester away from the public eye. And only when they do something drastic, it would have been far too late. For the first installment in my new lolcow series, I want to talk about a lolcow who hasn't really been covered very much, and I'm kind of shocked that he hasn't been. I mean, there has been some coverage, but I'm gonna be honest, it's not really good coverage. It's mostly just like disorganized live streams or like podcast videos. So I want to change that, and I hope my coverage today is to y'all's liking. Why did I say it like that? To y'all's liking. I'm not from the South. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you all to this lovely individual. This is Andrew, or Andy, Ditch. And his story is actually really fucking sad. But if you think I have like any sense of empathy for this person, trust me, I don't. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. This guy might be more entitled than any other lolcow you come across. And I'll explain what I mean in today's episode of the Bedhead Bizarre Lolcow Adventures. You like the JoJo pun? I thought it was really funny too. Now, for those of you who are new, maybe this is your first time tuning into the channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Lazy, and I usually don't look like this. Sometimes I look like all of this. And if this, in any way, is entertaining for you, I don't know why it would be, but if it is, then you should support the channel over on my Patreon.
Funding for the Lazy Bedhead channel was provided by viewers like you. Thank you.
Anyway, so I'm gonna try and make this video entertaining so that it's not the most depressing thing you've ever seen in your life. But I do have to emphasize that this is gonna be a very dark one to sit through. I mean, if you have watched me for long enough, when is it not? But I'm gonna put a trigger warning here. Today's installment of the Bedhead Bizarre Lolcow Adventures contains material that could be disturbing for some viewers. The topics of elder abuse, attempted murder, disability abuse, and human excrement are all featured in this video. Viewer discretion is advised. Look, listen, I know that people don't like them, they say it's overused in my content, but I know a lot of y'all need them and appreciate them, because so many of you need therapy. So, there it is. A fun video today, I know. Also, a brief forward before we really start with today's video. I'm formatting this shit like it's a goddamn APA essay. This video is going to center around conversations about mental health. I want the conversation to be done respectfully, especially in the comments. If not for Andy himself, then others that also have autism spectrum disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or Munchausen Syndrome. Just because Andy may or may not, and I'll explain that part in a minute, a patient of these disorders, that does not mean that he is a representation of all people with those disorders. Andy is not the face of, or should be used as an example of the average person with a diagnosis. I know the internet is gonna do its thing, it's gonna do what it wants, but let's try not to be derogatory in the comments when discussing Andy's mental health. I mean, ultimately, you guys will say what you want to say and are allowed to do so, but I'd prefer that discussions about Andy be at least productive. You may not like Andrew Ditch after this video, but judge him based on his actions as an individual and not his diagnosis. His actions could be explained by these disorders, but it shouldn't be used as an excuse or a way to mock him. Also, I don't know if it's apparent, but I am not a psychologist. I don't dress like a psychologist, clearly. I am not making this video to try and question or diagnose someone's mental health. I'm simply here to cover Andrew's own admissions, as well as how the internet has responded to him. Look, I'm not here to pick sides or anything. I'm just here to make a video. I'm actually gonna go over a little bit of Andy's life story before we get into how he's gotten to where he's at now. So, a brief history lesson. It's difficult to cover Andrew's entire story because we know way too much about this guy, yet we also know so little. Andrew constantly posts online and yet deletes everything, so shit's all out of order here. He has a bunch of social media accounts that are all inactive, a bunch of archived blogs, and many patient documents that he himself makes public. And yet, I am at a loss of where to even begin. Andy has like 10 channels tied directly to him. It's really hard to keep track of this guy, but this is what I was able to conjure up. Andrew Ditch was born June 7th, 1985, making him currently 38 years old. He lives with his brother Joe Ditch and his elderly parents Tom and Janet Ditch, one of which, his mother, is a retired nurse. He has another brother named Mike Ditch, who I don't believe lives within the family home. The Ditch family currently lives in Tonawanda, New York. What's important to note about the Ditch family is that they're all sort of not here. And look, I'm not trying to shame anyone or be disrespectful other than to maybe Andy himself. However, this family has their own issues that Andy only adds on top of. If Andy wasn't in the family unit, things wouldn't magically get better. What I mean by this is the current state of the home, from what we've been able to see, isn't the best. There's an abundance of hoarding in the home, not to the extent of like the Chandlers, but enough so that for two elderly folks who are not able to work anymore, they themselves could use more assisted living than their son does. Now, as far as like current videos that I have seen from Andy both last year and in this current year, the house doesn't look like a total dump, but it has seen better days. The Ditch family has done interviews, and Andy has posted videos talking or confronting them about his life story. The mass majority of Andy's content is painting this picture of his family as this abusive, neglectful home unit, whilst his family refutes this over and over and over again. And, because of that, they're all kind of unreliable narrators. There's no telling what is or isn't the truth. However, we do get a bit of helpful insight through Andy's own admission through his own medical documentation. Now, under HIPAA, Andrew, as the patient, can technically share his medical documentation with anyone, and Andy goes out of his way to share all of his medical records to the entirety of the internet. So when we go over some of this documentation, I want you guys to understand, I'm not violating any sort of HIPAA laws in reviewing this documentation, because Andy and people who have worked closely with him were the ones that consented to putting this out as public information on a public platform. Obviously, I'm not going to be showing absolutely everything, but I want to highlight the parts of his past that have led up to who he is today as a lolcow. So let's point out some pretty important things to note. Between the years of 1992 to 1997, it is documented by Andrew's outreach specialist,
Giuseppina Bugenagen.
Thank you. I wasn't going to try. I don't want to butcher the name. I feel like that would just be rude. Who Andy, and who I will be referring to as Juice, reports.
Prolonged period of being sexually abused. The appellant's behaviors and threats of suicidal ideations and gestures increased during this time period. At the age of 7, his first hospitalization at Western NY Children's Psychiatric Center. It was reported that appellants had impulsive and aggressive behaviors in the home and school setting. His primary diagnosis was post-traumatic stress disorder.
So in this particular report, it goes on to talk about a time where Andy was hospitalized for threatening to kill his own mother at 8 years old. This goes on to document his continued signs of physical and verbal aggression towards other family members, as well as his suicidal ideation and struggles to adjust to his home and school environment. Within his middle school years, he'd struggle to keep up with his attendance and would continue to make violent threats. In 2001, when Andy was 16, he was hospitalized again for assaulting his mother and a police officer. This past assessment of behavior would be corroborated by his own parents. In this particular clip, his father, Tom Ditch, discusses how Andy had once tried to poison his coffee with antifreeze.
I'm on the way home, I feel real lousy, I was gonna die or pass out or whatever. I finally get back to Buffalo, and I didn't even make it back to Grand Island. I wound up going to St. Joe's emergency room, and they took a blood test, and my doctor came back and told me, you're lucky to be alive. I says, what do you mean? He says, not only did someone put antifreeze in your coffee, but they put three different sleeping pills in it. And right away I told Andy, look, this is one thing I'm always scared about, even when I go to a restaurant or anything, walking away from there, that somebody could do something to tamper with your food. Yep. And I says, and here, you might be doing it. And then he started laughing, oh, you really do it, dude, I'm telling you. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute,
Interestingly enough, though, despite Andy being prone to aggression and his repeated threats to his family's lives, his father gave us some insight into how, despite Andy's past struggles with his mental health, Andy used to be a lot more independent than he claims to be now. According to his father, Andy used to have his own amateur computer business that he ran within their home.
Andy used to drive. And he used to have his own computer business in our house. And he was high rated with the Better Business Bureau. And he was an amateur weather meteorologist. And he locates storms
No
for the
shit.
Weather Bureau at the airport and all these other things. And all that stuff and all the stuff he was interested in. And he loved the sleepers. Lost interest. Can't do it. Can't function. No more.
This can be backed up in one of Andy's blogs, to which Andy writes in his biography.
I am a weather guru and have been a Skywarn spotter for the NWS since 2015. I was a certified IT that expired in 2017. I am also disabled with autism, sensory processing disorder, auditory processing disorder, receptive language disorder and a few other developmental disabilities. I have a very high IQ of 157 on a nonverbal IQ test in high school.
Andrew's father would talk about how Andy would take fascination in meteorology. His blog and one of his many YouTube channels, Andy's Weather Site, was Andy's way of sharing his interest in tracking and reporting on the weather. He also used to do recreational baseball growing up as part of his town's Yankee team. And even for a while, Andy had his own place. Now, at the time, his mother was helping him pay for the monthly payments on this apartment, but for the most part, Andy was pretty self-sufficient. His father spoke about how Andy used to drive, hold down jobs, worked at McDonald's as a Ronald McDonald performer. That was until one fateful day in 2005. In 2005, Andy was riding his bike to work at McDonald's. He was 20 years old, and on his way to work, he was struck by a car in a hit and run.
And he was riding his bike, and we got a phone call. We're sitting down to eat dinner. Come and see your son if you want, because otherwise he's going to be dead. He's laying in the middle of the street. So we raced out, got in the car, went over there, and he's laying in the middle of the street. He got hit by a vehicle, hit and run, and he's laying there. You know, his whole face is all bashed up and everything. And we had to call the police and the ambulance, get him to the hospital, whole 9 yards. And they said, well, other than the bruises, bleeding, and probably a concussion, he should be okay. And ever since, we've always questioned whether or not he had brain damage.
Despite the bruising and injuries to his face and head, Andy didn't suffer any injuries outside of a concussion. After this accident, he worked at Wendy's for a year. He only ended up quitting that job after his mom had to get an emergency surgery and could no longer afford to pay for the apartment he was living in. Andy's father talks about how over the years, they've tried to get Andy into group living. But as of right now, Andy is currently living with his parents, where he still posts to his channels, demanding his parents follow the requirements within his legal care, despite the fact his parents are just as incapable of taking care of themselves. So now that we are here, we can talk about Andy's Lolcow era. Now, lolcows aren't any different than like the average person who starts posting content on the internet. And when I say that, I mean that lolcows usually have the same reasons as, say, anyone else when they start posting on social media. Now, everyone has their own reasons to start a YouTube account, or a Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram. Sometimes it's to share their creativity, or connect with others, or to document their work, or vlog, or share their day-to-day lives. But when we boil down these social medias to their fundamentals, that is when we start to find a similar feature that is essential to all of them, and that is the follower count. I mean, sure, you can post pictures and videos and text posts to all of these platforms, but they all make it a highlight of how many people are following and engaging with those posts. A massive follower count is recognized heavily, not just by the masses, but also the corporate teams running these social medias. A massive reach has seen users be heavily favored and rewarded. YouTube with their subscriber plaques and invites to funded company endeavors like YouTube Rewind or VidCon features or even YouTube Originals. Twitter used to reward its users with verification, until it became a pay-to-win. And this goes for any platform, but follower engagement is what companies look for when they decide to partner with influencers for either sponsorships or branded content. Even if you're not the type of person that cares for any of this though, it's something that the founders of these platforms care deeply about. Otherwise, they wouldn't give special favors to some of their biggest content creators. Social media has always been a popularity contest. It's been built to be that way since the early days of MySpace. The thing is, social media accounts making a profit is still a fairly new concept. The only reason this popularity contest is such a big deal now is because no one thought that you could actually make a career out of being on the internet. But as that popularity is rewarded by the founders of these sites, it gave people this prospect that this account with a mass following could actually turn into a personal investment. It's a kind of popularity where being someone actually has an incentive, the opportunity of being an independent brand. Social media can be a career, and just the idea of having that chance is enough for even someone who never intended on focusing on the numbers to suddenly make that their top priority. Attention is what everyone craves online because it's shown to reward people with like an actual job. And no one is an exception to the rule. I certainly am not. I crave that attention too. I think we all do. I talk about all this because the internet being a career is a dream job, and with it being a lucrative business, the conception of lolcows was inevitable.
I am inevitable.
When you give the internet this much power and impact on people's real lives, they're gonna want to achieve that success. Lolcows are just the end result of social media being a beacon for people to garner a shit ton of attention and make a shit ton of money. But there's an issue with my assessment of this. By my own admission, I would be considered a lolcow. Any of us who ever post on social media would be lolcows. I mean, yeah, kinda. But I think what differentiates someone like myself and others online from a lolcow is that if the internet didn't exist, if this opportunity of online success was never a factor, I'd be working a normal job, contributing to normal society. These people would try poisoning their parents with Epsom salts, so you know. The point is that although I like making content and seeing your comments and your views, and the support is amazing, thank you, I still would be doing this even if I didn't get all that attention. And the fact that these lolcows are continuously getting attention is a big factor as to why they keep doing this, even if it's at the expense of their personal lives. Another thing that is important to mention is that people enjoy attention in general. Like, we're social creatures, we want other fellow social beings to look at us, and more importantly, we like positive affirmations from our fellow peers. Like, if I was making content and the only attention I got was negative press, it would be pretty debilitating. But lolcows just don't care. Like, any publicity is good publicity. I mean, just that statement alone is an understatement at this point. Lolcows just enjoy online interaction. It gives them someone to talk to. That's why a commonality that you'll see with lolcows is their engagement with trolls and people who hate follow them. This attention is something that they've probably never had their entire lives, so now that they're getting any sort of recognition at all, even if it's bad, they're gonna engage with it. Even though you'll see a lot of these lolcows hate all of the negative attention and the trolls and cry as a victim of harassment, they know that deep down without that engagement, no one would really give a shit. So with me laying out all of that foundation I just gave you, you'd think that when I transition into talking about Andy Ditch, that all of this information would work as a preamble to talk about how Andy craves YouTube fame and attention by making it big as an online celebrity. No, actually, it's the complete opposite. Andy's attention-seeking behavior isn't motivated by online fame.
Hey YouTube, if you want to see me eat poop, I will do that for you on YouTube, but I need 10 million likes to this video and 1,000 subscribers by end of this month.
I mean, if it was, then he wouldn't be deleting almost everything that he wants his audience to see. So if it's not clout, then what is Andy's goal? Going over his channel, you'll see a lot of his content is Andy sharing a ton of information about his life. Now, we're going to save that for the next chapter because that's when it's going to be more relevant to go over. The main theme of Andy's life and the sole reason why he shares all of this information with the internet. It's to show Andy's unfortunate circumstances. You see, Andy is a seemingly low-functioning autistic person who is not supported by his family, is abused by them even. Social services won't help him, the police just straight up arrest him, and society as a whole just doesn't seem to understand. So maybe the internet will? Maybe Andy will find a support group online that'll be more helpful than his past attempts to get him into a more accommodating spot. I know this is the intention because of this Quora question posted by Andy.
What can someone do to help me with the abuse and neglect I go through daily from my parents and providers? I have autism and my YouTube channel is Andrew Ditch. I have family who share mocks on my channel and fake channels. I need a group home.
The poor people who answered this honestly. I mean, like, good for you for having empathy, but only if they knew. The most common content posted to Andy's YouTube channels are the many times he gets into arguments with his parents. Most of those arguments result in Andy calling the police on his own family. But you see, that's the thing. By posting all these fights from his hostile family, who are denying his autism diagnosis as a whole, then he can expose the poor treatment he receives from the people he has apparently tried to get a court order against to be his full-time caretakers. As his parents, you'd think that this sort of accommodation is a given, but Andy's attempts to expose the abuse actually ends up directly shooting him in the foot. To clarify what I mean, let's just say that Andy's parents have a reason to question his autism diagnosis. Mainly because Andy doesn't have autism. I mean, there's no doubt that there's definitely, like, something mental, psychological, neurological going on up here. But according to everything Andy has shared himself, autism has already been ruled out by his doctors. In a tell-all interview done over the phone with Allison Carr, Andrew's mother, Janet Ditch, talks about how Andy didn't mention or talk about potentially having autism up until he was in his late 20s. She stated that he did not act like he had autism before going to Santa Maria in November of 2017. So a common diagnosis that is seen amongst Andy's older office visits was either PTSD or schizoaffective disorder, which Andy disputes by saying he was given a multitude of misdiagnoses before reaching autism, which honestly isn't a terrible excuse and is totally plausible. Andy's mother personally believes that Andy looked it up on Google and was misinformed about his diagnosis. There's not a huge community that follows Andy's online activity, but the small gathering that does oftentimes pairs Andy with a mental illness called Munchausen Syndrome. Named after the fictional German military officer Baron Munchausen, Munchausen Syndrome is the psychological condition in which a person will falsify an illness or a disability on themselves. Now, Baron Munchausen was loosely based on a real German military officer named Hieronymus Karl Friedrich. Within his aristocratic circles, Friedrich was known for making up these outrageous claims about his military services. These stories would be authored by fiction writer Rudolf Erich Rasp, who would pen these stories and the character of Baron Munchausen, the man known for making up stories of him being a military hero. Also, quick aside, there's a movie based on Baron Munchausen that is really fucking weird, and it has Robin Williams and Uma Thurman in it. That's not relevant to anything we're talking about, I just wanted to let you know.
You told me size don't make a difference!
A lot of cases of Munchausen syndrome fake an illness or disability for the fact that it brings a lot of attention. And I mean, if you just look through Andy's content, Munchausen syndrome would make a lot of sense. If he's not posting all of this for internet fame, then it's gotta be for the attention he craves with Munchausen syndrome. Right? I don't know. Look, the truth is, none of us can really ever know for sure since I'm not a medical professional and neither is the rest of the internet. The internet likes to have this perception that they have all the answers, but I don't think any of us really do. I mean, we have documentation from multiple different doctors stating that he doesn't have autism. However, we also have testimony from Andrew and his family of him having a multitude of different diagnoses over the years. We also have to take into account Andy's possible head trauma from his accident when he was in that hit and run when he was 20. What I really want to say with all of this is that anyone who talks with such certainty about Andy's mental health should probably take a step back if they're not a mental health professional. If they're not his doctors or his psychologists, then maybe we should butt out of making a specific diagnosis. It's not our place to diagnose anyone if we don't have the credentials, and if we want to avoid any more self-diagnosis from Andy, it's best not to feed into that more by saying that internet denizens know more about Andy's mental health than he does. And look, people are pretty adamant in saying that Andy is faking autism, that he has Munchausen Syndrome, or he's just a straight-up narcissist. And everyone who makes these assumptions are not medical professionals. And I'm not particularly here to make anyone think one way or another about any of this. I'm just here to say that we as spectators can't make that diagnosis. It's not ethical, no matter how much oversharing and how much information Andy shares with us. I mean, sure, we have all of this medical documentation, and it's pretty obvious from every single medical professional that Andy has seen that he doesn't have autism. But even with that medical information presented to us, we still don't know exactly what's going on here, and I don't think any of us really will. But here's the thing, despite all of this debate on what's going on here, I don't think that conversation even really matters in the grand scheme of it. I don't think we need to know exactly what's happening here to know why Andy is doing this. He wants sympathy. He needs confirmation that he is a victim and that the system has failed him time and time again. He wants people's pity. And it runs even deeper than that, because not only does he want people to pity his situation, but also engaging in that negative attention so much may be in connection to a different issue altogether. Look, I've spared talking about all of this until the very end of this chapter, mainly because I was trying to spare you all, and admittedly I was stalling, because this is what makes this guy so infamous. Now look, I know that outright denying someone has autism spectrum disorder is already like a lot to take in, right? But even if we didn't have Andy's medical records, I think people would have a fair reason to say that he doesn't have autism. This is because Andy not only centers his uploads around having autism, but also his incontinence. So the clip I am about to show you next is really nasty. So enjoy, I guess.
Never needed a diaper ever fucking before. So guess what? This is what my hotel looks like. Never needed a diaper before. I'm checking out.
So what you just saw was Andy Ditch smearing his feces all over the walls of a hotel room he was staying in. Oh, it gets worse.
I'm not trying to be sexual. I am not good enough. I went to the hospital for this. Skin infection. My medical providers don't care. This hurts real bad. It got real bad. And this never had issues on this side. And I'm okay to have pain where I don't even have help getting out of diapers. And he can't even take my antibiotics. My pain won't help me. I get no help with my medicine. No help taking my medicine properly.
Now, listen, I have mastered the art of minding my own fucking business, right? Y'all do you, so long as you're not hurting no one. A grown man wearing diapers is his own business by the end of the day. But like, bruh.
And I think I'm pooping myself, damn it. I'm pooping myself. I didn't even know I was recording this. I love pooping myself.
Okay, so background into all of this. Going back to the tell-all article by Allison Carr, Janet talks about how Andrew didn't start wearing diapers until he was in his 20s, before being very capable of taking care of himself, at least bathroom habit-wise. Not only that, but he was able to cook for himself. According to the tell-all, Andy's incontinence just started with him urinating himself. That was until Quoting his mother, bowel movements just felt good in the diaper, and all of a sudden, he just couldn't make it to the bathroom. The article goes on to say,
Mum states that he would fake bladder infections by dyeing the toilet red, but she knew, as she was a nurse, that this was not so. Mum states that Andrew wears a diaper so that he can sit in front of the computer for hours on end and not get up. He said that he knows when to go. He is capable of cleaning up after himself, but won't because he's lazy and wants everyone to clean him up. At about 20, when the incontinence began, he was adamant about briefs. He wanted tab diapers and wanted someone to put them on for him.
All my life, Dad! And you had me arrested for something!
All your life? Only the last 3 years?
No! Yeah! I never had...
And maybe when you were 17, when you beat the living shit up of me?
Joe? I never once had a meltdown hurting my husband. Never once!
So, let's talk about this. So, Andy's issues with going to the bathroom started when he was in his 20s, and this is also around the time that Andrew was part of that hit-and-run accident. Head trauma and brain injury have been known to affect people's continence. It's also important to mention, again, the diagnosis of PTSD and schizoaffective disorder. Certain antipsychotic medications have incontinence as a potential side effect, including
chlorpromazine, haloperidol, or pimozide.
So these problems that Andy is having might actually be like a real medical issue that he's dealing with. And if that's the case, then I don't want to just plaster him all over this video and just depict him as this gross person. Look, incontinence is an actual medical problem that all types of people have, and I don't want to make people feel bad or stigmatize this any more than it already has been. But there is one more thing that I need to show you that puts this all in a whole different perspective. See, I mentioned in the preamble that Andy has two brothers. There's Joe Ditch, who we will be referring to later, and Mike Ditch.
Okay, I recognize that as my brother Michael. This is me.
Mike is never mentioned in any of Andy's videos much, and we never see him living in the home, and we don't see him mentioned very much in Andy's medical records. And there might be a good reason for that. Now, before I show you any of this, I need to make a legal disclaimer here that everything is alleged. Everyone mentioned in this medical documentation is considered innocent until proven guilty. These are documented claims and nothing more, and everything I mentioned should be chalked up to as an accusation that hasn't been tried legally. So, let's go over this.
Physical abuse. As victim or abuser. It is reported that the patient was physically abused by his elder brother, Michael, as a youngster. His brother was eventually placed into RIC. At the current time, the patient reports reconciliation with his brother. Sexual abuse. As victim or abuser. As above, patient has been sexually fondled with possible insertion behaviors by his brother Michael as a youngster. He has suffered chronic PTSD symptoms from this. Patient has no history of being a sexual perpetrator himself. In a prior evaluation, Andrew reported a tendency to ejaculate into diapers.
So, as mentioned in the preamble of this, Andrew Ditch was a victim of childhood sexual abuse between the years 1992 and 1997. That's 7 to 12 years old. Information from this medical report is then followed up with mention of Andy's tendencies to relieving himself in his diapers. And that's where this becomes more, let's just say, self-indulgent. Now, listen, I'm still not a medical professional. So, in the benefit of the doubt that I could give Andy, this is probably a real issue that he does deal with, especially with the extra layer of CSA. Playing with or destroying property with your excrement is a behavior seen in people who have been through that sort of extreme trauma. However, with his tendency of just randomly bringing up his bathroom habits,
this shows how sick you really are, because normal people, especially your age, would not even attempt to do that. I hate the thought of doing something like that.
Dad, I'm not gonna lie, I always did like to feel poo in my hand. You're gonna tell me having autism is sick, right?
No. What you're doing is sick. It's not right. And don't even smile about it. Get that spit off.
I am not sick.
It's disgusting.
To talking about how he enjoys holding his dog's own waste.
Tucker's poo is pretty good feeling most of the time.
I gotta go in so I can...
But no, that smells, and I don't like the smell. But
to flashing police officers who visit his home by showing off his infected diaper rashes.
I don't mean to sexually abuse you, but this is my skin infection.
I think Andy divulging in this sympathetic pity, as well as the negativity, is probably part of this rush of being humiliated online. It's common online for people to have like embarrassing moments or information shared about themselves that they would rather have had that kept private. We all have something about ourselves or our past that we are embarrassed and ashamed of. But it's literally every time that Andrew uploads to his YouTube channel is something humiliating and embarrassing. These are times where Andy is at the lowest of his lows, doing the most embarrassing shit imaginable, all in an attempt to look pitiful for people to feel bad for him. I mean, think about it. If he's had a history of being self-sufficient, to then all of a sudden at 20 years old, he just starts shitting himself and expecting his parents to help change him. I mean, how else are you supposed to interpret that?
I'm not trying to be sexual.
The only way you could interpret that is that this is Andy's fetish.
I don't mean to sexually abuse you.
And I'm not trying to be a kink shamer. Like, I don't care what gets you off. I care when you try to make your elderly parents change your diapers for you. And if they don't comply, you destroy their house by ripping up your dirty diapers on their front porch. Like, consenting to a kink is a two-way streak, you know what I mean? And on top of it being consensual between both parties, they're also your parents? Like, ew, what the fuck? If you go through Andy's catalog of content, a lot of his content is dedicated to documenting his personal life, which includes absolutely everything. I'm talking fights with his parents, medical records, house tours, police arrests, personal phone calls to the police or social services, Ring doorbell camera footage, hospital visits, mental breakdowns, filming the outside of his neighbor's home, and filming himself taking a shit. When I tell you I know more about this man's personal business, not intending to go out of my way to figure it out, by the way. The fact that he just shares this all willingly, even though no one asked. I know more about this man's shit habits than I ever wish to ever. But the only reason I know all of this is because Andy willingly shares all of this information. And this has to be part of his strategy to receive attention and pity. By oversharing everything, it exposes Andy's abusive family unit. On top of that, this amount of oversharing is a big reason why people believe that a lot of Andy's bathroom habits are overall a part of his fetish. Because usually someone with this issue wouldn't announce when they are currently shitting themselves.
I love pooping myself.
I know more about this man's bathroom habits than I would ever like to admit I do about any human being on the face of the planet. Now, being an open book on the internet has shown to be an effective manipulation strategy. I mean, Boogie 2988 is a great example of that. But I think what makes Andy different is that this openness has only shown to make him look like a completely unreasonable person who lacks any self-awareness that all of this oversharing of his life makes him look like a complete asshole. But once again, that's a topic that's going to be more relevant in the next section, so we'll explore that later. What I more so want to do with this section is talk about the extensive amount of information there is on this person through their own admission, as well as how this oversharing is something that is actually prevalent just within Andy's personality. And we know that this is common behavior because of what is reported by Andy's outreach specialist, Juice.
Appellant struggled academically and with interpersonal relationships due to his behavioral, emotional, cognitive processing, and communication difficulties. It was consistently recommended that he needed one-by-one aid assistance and constant adult supervision. Additionally, it was reported that appellant's peer interactions were verbally aggressive, sexualized, condescending and inappropriate.
Now, that last bit is very important because according to his family, growing up, Andy had a tendency to just kind of spring up topics of sex and sexual activity just unprompted, which is very similar to how now he will just randomly bring up his bathroom habits just for no reason. And this is why people watching his content believe that this is a fetish. Him oversharing this information might be just a thing where Andy likes getting reactions out of people. He enjoys the reactions of disgust that he riles up in his parents.
What you're doing is sick. It's not right. And don't even smile about it. Get that spit off.
I am not sick.
It's disgusting.
Maybe this is a way of getting revenge against his abusive family by acting like a baby and calling the police when his parents don't comply. And look, like I said before, I mind my business, so if this is some sort of kink, I don't really care. But it bothers me that he actively tries to get his parents to engage with that. I mean, most people with a diaper fetish know that, like, at some point, the illusion, the fantasy, the whatever, it eventually disappears and you have to pull yourself out of it once it's over. And that means, pulling yourself up by the pull-ups and cleaning up after yourself. But Andy will sit in his feces and get diaper rashes, and I don't even know if the most hardcore diaper fetishist out there would ever put up with that. Okay, so here we go with the full stalker mode as I tell you everything I know about Andy's life, unwillingly, might I add. I already shared a ton of information already, so here's more. Here is what the inside of their house looks like with this long-ass house tour. Here's a product review of the type of diapers that Andy wears.
I don't know what kind of diapers these are. I want to say these are good night. I'm pretty sure these are good night. I'm almost positive if I remember these ones were good night. I didn't wear these because they didn't fit me like the white good night. But at the same time, I remember mom and dad buying these diaper pull-ups, right? Because at the time, mom and dad wanted me in pull-ups because everybody else wanted that done. They wanted to try to keep me keep trying to potty train me in school. I think, and I don't know, these were Depends, based on the old material, if I remember. And you know what, I think these are Depends just based on how the elastic is. Here, if you look at the new Depends, they're pretty much the same.
Here is what Andrew's diaper rash looks like. I'm not showing that uncensored. This is his dog. One time he played with its shit. One time, Andy's dad's car broke down in the middle of driving, nearly causing an accident. Andy may or may not have something to do with tampering his dad's car.
Could be somebody going underneath your hood. This car is easier to get underneath it. Somebody could be tampering with their dad because look at some of the things that people just don't like you or me.
How come he didn't tamper with Joe's car?
I think they kind of know Joe. Okay. And I think Joe's car is a little harder to get underneath. I do believe this is what happened with this because you never had any problems with this.
I know.
Andrew Ditch one time released the phone call that he made to 911 where he told the responding officer that he killed 10 people.
Hi, I killed 10 people.
What?
I killed 10 people on Buffalo East Side. Now you can take me into jail and I don't have any freedoms. Now you gotta arrest me. Now you gotta investigate murders.
What is your name?
My name is Andrew Ditch.
Stupider even, but during this phone call, the only reason that he was making the call in the first place was because Andy wanted to get into a group home, and for some reason, he believed that prison was the equivalent of that.
Yes, I'm doing this so I can get my medication and in a permanent group home.
So you're telling me that you killed 10 people and all that because you want to get into a ditch? Get into a group home?
I want to get in a group home, yes.
Look, I don't like Andy Ditch, right? But considering how that environment treats people with mental illnesses, I'm kind of relieved that this plan didn't work. I mean, he would not survive a day in there.
Yeah. You can arrest me now. I killed 10 people, right?
Nope, I have to have witnesses and evidence.
There's unclaimed murders. You can arrest me now. You're violating the court order of investigating a murder.
Here's some footage of Andy spitting on a hospital worker.
Can I please leave?
Sir, no. The doctor
Why?
said no. The doctor said no.
I want to leave.
Hey, man, come on.
I want to leave. Can I please leave?
No.
I have a right.
That's how you're gonna be.
I'm asking to leave. I have a right to leave.
Before you leave after that crap.
I'm sorry, but you can't hold me against my will. I'm asking to leave. And I'm glad to be arrested.
Here's Andy Ditch having a mental breakdown.
It's not good. I hate words. I hate words. I hate words.
Andy Ditch arguing with mental health professionals at a hospital.
I don't feel safe.
Andy, we just need you to sit in the wheelchair for right now.
I'm leaving.
That's fine, but I need you to sit in the wheelchair.
No, I want to leave.
All right, but sit in the wheelchair.
No, I want to leave. It's my right.
I understand that, Andy.
You're holding me against my will. Am I being detained?
Listen to me. I'm asking.
Am I being detained or am I being arrested?
Andy, I'm just asking.
Am I being detained or am I being arrested?
Do not record me.
I am. Okay. You're holding me against my will. Am I being detained or am I being arrested?
Andy, I'm asking you to get off the floor and just.
Then get a court order for me to stay here. It's under the mental legal hygiene law. If you're going to force me to stay here, when she said I'm being discharged.
You are, and your ride is coming. But
I don't want to go in the ride. I want to leave on my own, which is my constitutional right.
Okay, well, for right now, can you just do me a favor and talk to me, but off the floor?
No, I am walking out the door, and you cannot hold me here without a court order.
Here's a video of Andy refusing to help his mother after she had fallen and couldn't get back up.
Why are you on the floor?
I like the dog.
How did you fall? Why did you fall when you were sitting on the toilet?
I got off the toilet.
And you can't get up, and you couldn't call anyone.
I did.
Okay, Google broadcast. Dad, Mom is on the floor. She fell right off the toilet. She's on the dog's bed. Mom, how did you fall when you were right by the toilet?
I got dizzy and I fell.
Mom.
My knees killed me anymore.
Well, Mom, you don't do anything. You lay in bed all day.
So do you. So be quiet, please.
I lay...
you don't do much of either or anything either.
The past 2 days, I was taking it easy for my emotional well-being, Dad.
Here is footage of Andy showing us how he brushes his teeth with his own finger. But the real kicker here is this infamous arrest Andy recorded himself. Now, this footage here is one that I want to go over with you in great detail and give you all of the context, because this is the sort of example of how oversharing not only hurts Andy, but also hurts others around him, including his family and the police. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so here's the context. It's March of 2020. Andrew's mother is on oxygen and is physically reliant on oxygen machines to get fresh air to breathe. Andy is not making any of those issues any better, he is making them worse. Andrew has some sort of oil diffuser thing. An oil diffuser is not recommended for people on oxygen. Although there are essential oils that are safe for people on oxygen tanks, a lot of highly concentrated essential oils are actually flammable. They're not safe to use amongst oxygen equipment. That's what I'm trying to get at. Now, if someone is using a water diffuser, that's a little different because that's converting it into a steam, and steam can actually be really good for your lungs. But pair that with the hoarding and the fact that even if you use a mist diffuser, if you have a higher concentration of oil to water ratio, you're essentially just burning oil. It can be very overpowering to someone with breathing problems. And Andrew was asked by his parents multiple times to turn off the diffuser, but he refused because the diffuser is, and I quote, a court-ordered medical device for his coping skills. Yeah. You'll notice this as well, but Andrew seems to know his rights. right? He talks a big deal about his rights as a disabled person, that he is court appointed to do certain things to cope with his disability. He's even used these disability rights against his own parents to try to make them do certain things for him. Usually that's anything to do with his adult diaper habits. But there's a reason why most of these police visits end like this.
I don't have to. You're not, is it court order?
We want to know if we can press charges because this is our home and it's bothering our breathing.
You didn't ask me to turn it off.
Could you stop shining that light in my face?
I can, is that order or is that a violation? You gonna arrest me for having my light on camera?
No, I'm asking you as a matter of human decency.
This is police officer Stephen Bentley. He has actually visited the home on multiple occasions. He knows Andy, he's dealt with both him and his parents calling the police over and over. So if there's concern for how police officer Bentley addresses and deals with Andy in this clip, understand it's not because this guy is like on a power trip or anything. He's not trying to be an asshole. It's just that he's dealt with this too many times.
I'm asking you to shut the oil diffuser off.
It's for my coping skills. And I don't have to answer to you unless it's a court order for it.
Andy, can you please not?
If there's a court order, is that a request or is it an order?
It doesn't have to be a court order. Why do you have to talk like this all the time?
Is that a request or is that a court order for me not having my oil diffuser that helps me relax?
You don't have to, you don't need that. Your parents have, your mother's on oxygen. It's bothering her, okay?
And I would have turned it off.
Your mother is on oxygen and has been hospitalized several times.
Your mother is on oxygen and has been hospitalized several times. Little does Officer Bentley know within Andy's archives, he has had reported behaviors of wanting his mother dead since he was like 8 years old. So even if this oil diffuser has a chance of making her like really, really sick to the point that she is hospitalized, I don't think Andy really gives a shit.
You didn't ask me to turn it off.
Could you stop shining that light in my face?
I can, is that order or is that a violation?
This is how you know Andy is aware of how unaware he is, right? He knows that he's recording this entire interaction. He knows that he has captured his parents beforehand telling him to turn it off. And now he is saying on camera that his parents did not tell him to turn it off. Andrew records everything, and I literally mean everything. If you think recording everything is gonna bite him in the ass now, just wait.
Arrest me. Throw me in jail.
If I can.
Throw me in jail for something, Andy.
See if I can.
Arrest me for something for I'm trying to do something to calm me down.
Do you want to be quiet? Because you know what? I asked you man to man if you would just turn it down and you refused. So this is what happens, okay?
Arrest
you
me.
come in here and you shine a light.
Arrest me.
That's
Arrest
what I'm
me.
calling to do.
Because Andy's using that to calm myself down. And you're not allowing me my coping skill, which is a discrimination-based arrest. Make sure your lieutenant knows that one.
Andy coaxing this officer to arrest him shows more of his lack of self-awareness. Because Andy truly believes, because of the laws protecting people with disabilities, that he is virtually untouchable. He uses the law and his rights as a disabled person as a crutch to be an asshole. But the thing is that these protection laws aren't gonna help protect him from talking back to a police officer. Officer Bentley has been harassed by Andy, who constantly mails him and his department with information about how disability rights and laws work. And yet, even though Andy has made it a point to clarify to officers what his rights are, when he's confronted by officers in regards to something that he knows he won't be protected by those laws, he just starts making his rights up. You'll notice too that Andy has said how he wants a lawyer to talk to the police.
I want a lawyer. I need further communication.
For what? I'm not asking.
I have a legal right to have a lawyer.
Incriminating questions.
I have a legal right to a lawyer.
Okay. Well,
have a nice day.
But not only does he continue to speak with the officer without a lawyer, but also his mother reveals that he doesn't have a lawyer. He can't afford one because he doesn't have any money.
What are you spending on? What's that?
So he gets arrested for harassment and resisting arrest. During his arrest, he calls crisis services twice. There's a lot of suicidal threats being made and potential sounds of self-harm. It is very distressing and disturbing, so I'm gonna give a fair warning. It's a lot.
I want to die because you don't want to help me.
Put your hands
I want to fucking die first. You're gonna shoot me. You're gonna shoot me. You're gonna
Crisis Services, this is Haley. How can I help you? Crisis Services, this is Haley. How can I help you?
I think that's what help me relax.
Hello? I can't hear what you're saying.
Relax.
Well, this is what happened.
Hello?
I asked you to shut it off.
I think that's to relax me.
Hello? There seems to be a problem with our connection. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911 or give us a call back. How can I help?
I did nothing wrong. The police are arresting me for my oil diffuser. My thing to help me relax. I want to die, please. I want to die because any can't have relaxation stuff to help me relax. I'm being discriminated against Officer Bentley. I want to die. I'm not good enough to have my oil diffuser to help me relax. And my head hurts. What?
I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm being arrested for my oil diffuser.
Okay, why are you being arrested right now?
For my oil diffuser. Officer Stephen Bentley's arresting me for my oil diffuser.
Refusing to put his hands behind his back, so now he's going to be charged with resisting.
I didn't do anything other than have an oil diffuser on. Ma'am, I didn't have anything besides my oil diffuser on.
Are the police there now?
Yeah, Officer Stephen Bentley's trying to arrest me for my oil diffuser.
Why don't you speak with the officers that are there?
Because he's arresting me for my oil diffuser.
Okay.
He's arresting me for my oil diffuser. He's arresting me for my oil diffuser. I don't want to. You're abusing me. 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 Yeah, I don't have to. You're abusing me. You're abusing me. I didn't do anything. I want to go.
I'm going to have to end the call.
And look, here's the thing, right? Even though Andy is a proven attention seeker for pity, I don't want his suicidal thoughts to be used as proof of that, you know what I mean? Even if Andy doesn't have autism, there's definitely something going on up here, and it's dark. But trust me, don't feel bad for Andy just yet, because right after he made bail, he doxed the police officer's house.
Here's Officer Strowski's house right here, guys, and he beats people up with autism. Hey, here is Captain Litz and Cindy Young's house, just to let everybody know. The cop that beat up people.
So, honestly, at this point, shout out to that police officer. I am so sorry that Andy has been causing you this level of harassment and hell. Normally, right, I'd be ACAB, right? But I will spare you this one time, because if I had to put up with all of this shit, I might use some government-approved police brutality too. Now, Andy's need to share absolutely everything about his life is linked with this need for attention, and both of these things are tied to Andy's lack of self-awareness. Now, Andy, as much of an oversharer that he is, I'm sure he does have things that he doesn't intentionally mean to show the audience. And I mean, that's sort of a given, seeing that he's trying to paint us this picture that he lives in an abusive home unit. I mean, it would be a shame if, say, it came out that Andy had spiked his family's food with hot sauce. Oh, he did accidentally reveal that.
You never spiked it with the hot sauce, the super hot sauce. Oh, that's not spiking. Oh, yeah, that was spiking it. That's not a chemical, dumbass. There was one time Andy did, put Miralax. No, not Miralax. I don't remember what it was at the time. It was a stool softener, and my dad's coffee went at 15 or something like that. When he used the word nonstop.
My cat is so fucking cute. You guys need to see this. Hold on. Hold on. Do you want to be on camera? Say hello. Oh my goodness. I love when you're here helping me record. You keep me nice and calm. Such a good baby. You know, it would be a shame if Andy accidentally revealed that a lot of the accounts that defend Andy online are actually Andy himself. Oh wait, he did do that? I mean, even though this guy has like a humiliation kink, I'm sure that there are some things that he doesn't want to share with people. Everyone is still entitled to their privacy, even an oversharer like Andrew Ditch. The only reason he can't achieve that privacy is because he is so unaware of how much he is sharing at this point. So here's a stalker round number 2 of all the unnecessary information that Andrew Ditch shares on a daily basis. That makes me feel like even more of a creep for even knowing. So the difference with this lightning round and the last one is that everything I spoke about last time was things that Andy was willing to show us intentionally. This is the stuff that he deleted from his channel because he makes himself look really bad, or he didn't realize he was accidentally revealing information that he didn't mean to. Andy has some sort of weird relationship with this person whose name and face I am censoring because I'm sure he doesn't want any relation to Andy at this point. But through these messages that Andy tries to skim by, the parts of the conversation we are able to see go a little something like this.
Mia. Sorry, no answer. I was taking a bath.
Hey, I will talk later. Text me when you can.
Mia, if you want to talk, I'm available.
I can mind my own business. You know, I don't need to question it because it's none of my business. Why he meowing like a cat? Now, from just this exchange, this isn't anything too weird. I mean, other than like, he meows like a cat. This is an abomination to cats everywhere. I'm sorry. How about all the times that Andy has said the N-word?
Freaking nigger. I played dumb with your smart ass black nigger ass because I didn't want to know you because you're trouble. You prevented me from getting medical care, you fat ass nigger. And I don't want to be treated like that. You want to be called a fat ass nigger?
What about the one time Andy accidentally admitted that an account with the username Super Mario was actually his account during a conversation where he is questioning how people knew these alt accounts belonged to him?
All the YouTube channels that I create, how the hell do they know it's me?
No, it's somebody that has extensive computer ability.
You can't get my IP address because I use a Super Mario email username on YouTube.
What about this video where he gets called out by, I'm assuming, the police? He gets called out for burning bridges with every shelter that he has tried to find housing with.
Why denying me help?
Our means of helping you. Did you hear me 100 times? We, as a department, as the courts, have exhausted our means in helping you. We've given you numerous services.
I want you to stop now.
You cannot do anything else, okay?
Like I said, Andy has been trying to find housing for his disability because he doesn't feel accommodated at home. But as it turns out, the reason why Andy is having issues finding himself a better living situation is because he just walks out on every service he tries to use. This probably has something to do with the fact that Andy is a my way or the highway kind of person, right? Basically, if Andy gets help for himself, but he doesn't get it in his way, then he makes his shit everyone else's problem. I meant that literally. Like, the reason why Andy doesn't get the help that he needs is because, just simply put, he doesn't want to get help.
Because I'm disabled.
Andy, I deal with disabled people all the time.
Well, fuck you do.
I love that part, you know, just like, Andy, I deal with disabled people all the time. Well, fuck you too. Absolutely fucking ridiculous, man. What the fuck? Like, dude, no wonder he can't get any help. He's just so rude. What about this phone call he makes where he reveals to have taken a shit in his father's truck?
No one told you to touch anything on my truck, Andy.
Sorry.
This is my truck. Don't touch.
You didn't tell Dad I shit myself, did you?
No.
Why? You made it a surprise from what?
Because you didn't tell me to tell him.
What about this call where he threatens social services?
I let my doctor know being neglected and abused. I have a medical note that you guys have nothing to do with my APS worker. I'm gonna fucking kill you guys!
Thank you for
I'm gonna fucking kill you guys, you piece of shit, for abusing my medical fucking care! I'm fucking killing you guys! You're killing me! I don't want you fucking abusing me!
What about this footage of Andrew Ditch going to a concert? Keep in mind, Andy claims to have auditory processing disorder, and with autism, loud noises would potentially disorganize him because of stimming.
You're hurting my ears, you know.
But apparently his footage is totally still and clear and great, even.
Did you hear that, Andrew?
Yeah.
That was a part of a grapevine. Did you ever
Yeah.
hear that one?
Nope.
You never heard that one? Yes, you have. Sound off!
What about the one time Andy's parents received a phone call from a nurse who Andy followed back to her house? Yes, he stalked a Kenmore Mercy Hospital nurse all the way back to her home.
And we got a phone call from the owner of that house, who was terrified of him.
And she works at the ER at Kenmore Mercy.
And she works at Kenmore Mercy as a nurse practitioner.
Well, I understand, but we get a phone call from somebody saying that she's not in law or something like that. But, I mean, he's within his right to leave the house and go for a walk and do what he likes.
I know.
You know, seeing how much Andy stalks and harasses people, it kind of makes me feel better about all of the stalking I did for this video. Outside of recording and posting basically everything about his life, Andy has also spoken at length about the harassment he has received online. And look, I know I've made disclaimers about this in the beginning of my videos, as well as the description, but none of the subjects that I talk about for my videos should be getting any sort of harassment. At least, like, not on my behalf or anything. Like, you don't need to white knight for me on the internet. I'm just a fucking idiot. Like, obviously people are gonna do what they want to do, but I don't support any harassment going towards anyone I talk about. Trust me, it's not worth the fucking time. But yeah, anyways, Andy bringing up his harassment is interesting. The way he went about talking about his harassment could not have been any worse. The fact that he is so unaware how bad the framing of this was is expected, but still embarrassing. Andy talks about his online harassment as more of an example of a broader perspective on harassment that a lot of disabled people get online, which, I mean, is a fair point. Because of how people are fascinated with lolcows and online oddities that are oftentimes neurodiverse, it leads to a lot of people who are also neurodiverse to get harassment because people's example of autism spectrum disorder are oftentimes people like Chris Chan or Daniel Larson or even Andrew Ditch. And yeah, that sucks. And if Andrew was speaking on a personal experience to help people in similar situations relate, or even if he was speaking out against treating all cases of autistic people with this overgeneralization that they're all just like that one Chris Chan guy, then I would say that Andy had a fair point. However, the context as to why he is bringing this up is in response to allegations that surfaced against a TikTok creator known as Nova Online. Nova Online is someone who I've considered making a video on, but so many people have already talked about Nova ad nauseum that it would be pointless to do so at this point. Plus, I keep getting Nova confused with Jupiter for some reason. I wonder why. But here's why this response is so bad. Andrew doesn't really get involved in YouTube drama all that much. Not really. He normally just sticks to trying to get pity points on the internet, but he's not like a commentary channel. This is the one time that he puts his 2 cents on the internet, and it is the worst thing that I have ever heard in my life. This whole video is just Andrew white knighting Nova, talking about how it's totally not weird that he was talking to a 14-year-old because maybe he identifies himself as a child mentally and he is talking to minors with the mindset of a minor. So it's totally not weird. I have to give it to Andy on this one. That's the first time I've ever heard that one in my life.
I've been digging into this person a little bit further. I saw a police investigation report on that. It was unfounded. I just found another video because yet again, people with disabilities are being trolled in a way to make it look like they're completely lunatic, crazy, and it's causing them trauma. I have a list of this shit to show you what people are doing to people like me, to people like this poor gentleman here, to other people with developmental and mental health issues, and I'm going to get this to stop. This video is to protect people like him, like me, and like others, and this is going to bring awareness to this shit that these people are doing to these people. Let's start with this hot topic that this person is a sexual offender and all this other shit. You cannot say he's a sexual offender because he's in a bedroom with a 14-year-old. He's probably mentally younger than 14. From the information that I saw about this person, he does not have capacity. He's severely developmentally disabled like me. And this is this person that he's being traumatized because he was sleeping in a room, a sleepover that was younger than him. Yeah, he follows people with diapers. He has a diaper fetish maybe, but there are some reports that maybe he is incontinent for bedwetting. These edited videos are photoshopped. Let me just put it to you this way. He doesn't have the social awareness or ability to understand things. And you're going to tell this kid that he's sexually abused somebody? You're trying to get him to convince and believe that he abused somebody just because he enjoys being in diapers or have a fetish or needs a diaper or because he follows others who are in diapers. Maybe another article said just because he's following children online who need diapers does not mean he's a dangerous person. Maybe that he's following them because he needs diapers for his issues, and it's somebody who he feels more related to, being somebody mentally younger than his physical age because of his disability. And I agree with another video that said that this is what trolls do to people with developmental disabilities every single day. Waste your time and effort to edit videos to show no video of any proof that this kid is abusing another kid that's much younger. There's no evidence supported. There's nothing. You're hurting this person like you've been doing to me. If I'm going through this by this large group of people accusing me for being a pedophile and this shit and that, and this kid is going through it too, this kid is no different than me.
I mean, look, the general rule of thumb normally on the internet is like, don't talk to kids in general. And even if you do, say like you make YouTube videos like me and you're talking to someone who's a fan of your content, right? Or you're in an online game and you're playing with a bunch of kids. Just be respectful. Hi. You are the adult in this situation, so you should act like one. You shouldn't act like this.
Twinkle, twinkle, will die. How I wonder why you are up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, will die. How I wonder what you are.
But how often do you masturbate?
You know, I think that's a pretty easy rule to follow. I don't really think it has to be that complicated. I don't know why Andy is having such a hard time with this, but I'm sure he won't continue to say something else stupid.
You cannot say he's a sexual offender because he's in a bedroom with a 14-year-old. Just because he's following children online who need diapers does not mean he's a dangerous person. Maybe that he's following them because he needs diapers for his issues, and it's somebody who he feels more related to, being somebody mentally younger than his physical age because of his disability. I can give you an example of 4 other people that I know that have been set up by people because they're naive and gullible and easily manipulated to think that to get people to think that they're predators. One of them, Chris Chan.
What the fuck?
You know, there's a light bulb in that attic. The light bulb is flickering. It's just the bills have not been paid for weeks, and the light bulb probably needs to be replaced by now. Now, look, I see what Andy is trying to say here. What Andy is trying to say is that incontinence or someone that wears adult diapers or age regresses does not automatically make someone a threat to kids. Look, I know that we've been kinda highlighting the shit that Andy gets into. You can't stop me, I'm gonna keep making these. But look, people do have like legitimate reasons to wear adult diapers. I mean, we've talked about some of those reasons briefly. And again, I don't want to stigmatize that, nor do I think it should be. Age regression therapy has gotten a bad reputation online because everyone that we've seen who experiments in age play also ends up getting exposed for being icky with children. But age regression therapy is a real thing, and it can actually be a very helpful coping skill for people with like severe childhood trauma. And most people who do engage with age play aren't trying to use it as an opt to be like a pedophile. It's just something they do in their private time and it brings them comfort. I mean, you could think it's weird, like I'm not gonna be able to change your opinion on that. I can't convince you it's totally not weird. But remember, my golden rule with this video is that y'all can do whatever the fuck makes you happy, so long as you're not hurting yourself or other people. Like, if you want to fucking dress as a baby and play with baby toys and watch fucking, I don't know, Bluey, that's fine. Do whatever you want. Just don't touch little girls. And I don't think people should be harassed for any physical or mental disability or for the shit that they do in private that makes them happy. Like, so long as you're not doing anything illegal or harmful, I really don't care. I can mind my own business, so long as you're not a fucking pedophile. But like I said earlier, Andy doesn't usually put his own 2 cents on the internet. Hell, you can tell just based on how he describes Nova, he doesn't even really know this person, considering that he calls Nova severely disabled.
From the information that I saw about this person, he does not have capacity. He's severely developmentally disabled, like me.
Now, I don't know what Nova's mental health is like, right? And I'm not going to be able to tell whether or not he has any disabilities, but in my personal opinion, I would not describe Nova online as someone who is severely disabled. I mean, maybe his radar is going off, but it's having a malfunction, you know what I mean? What the fuck?
I've been very respectful to autistic people thus far, and I've been sort of respectful to Andy, kind of. I know that joke was probably very inappropriate, but please let me have this one, please.
I don't know, he just seems like a pretty high-functioning person to me. So, obviously, just based on that, Andy doesn't know enough about Nova to be coming to his defense. So, why is he coming on here so determined to white knight like this? Well, actually, Andy does tell us why. He accidentally slips it in here. Let me show you in case you missed it.
You're hurting this person like you've been doing to me. If I'm going through this by this large group of people accusing me for being a pedophile and this shit and this that, and this kid is going through it too, this kid is no different than me. He did not do anything. And then you have a huge following of people to say, I'm faking, I'm a pedophile, I am deliberately acting like this, I want people to diaper me, I'm age regressed, I don't need diapers, and all this bullshit that people do to me.
You heard that, right? You heard that. Accusing you. I'm sorry. Since when were the Nova Online accusations? When did it have anything to do with Andy Ditch getting accused? Interesting. See, what Andy is trying to do with this is he's trying to deflect away supposed accusations of his own by dispelling accusations made on Nova. He sees himself and Nova as the same, both having mental disabilities and interest in diapers. But here's the funny thing about all of this. At this point, people were just accepting that Andy needed diapers for incontinence, either due to mental illness or brain damage or whatever. The whole fetish thing wasn't even a conversation until he started defending Nova. I mean, sure, based on like past diaper sex pest of the internet, there were some people that saw this way before and kind of just jumped to that conclusion already, but this basically confirmed it for people. He is deflecting so hard right now. Now, to be perfectly clear, I don't know if if there are any grooming or sexual crimes that Andy has been accused of personally. From all the research that I've seen, I don't think there is. I do think that it's weird how he talks about watching kids though, like, why? But like I said earlier, if this is an actual medical issue that he's dealing with, I don't want to jump straight into, oh, it's actually a kink. But Andy is not helping himself. Just by defending Nova, he's making it sound like he's doing this as part of his fetish, and that's his own fault. Like, I'm not even putting words in his mouth anymore. That is how he just words himself. Showing you a lot of clips thus far of Andy, and it doesn't take a neuroscientist to tell you something up here ain't right. Now, you could argue that this slow descent into Andy's unrecognizable personality could be caused by him wanting to be perceived as helpless and slow-minded. But what's funny about this is how smart Andy actually believes he is, whilst also acting like a toddler. By Andy's own admission, he tells us that he has an IQ of 167 and that he was well-adjusted and intelligent in school. But according to his outpatient records, it tells us a different story.
Reading. He scored 4.6 grade equivalent on reading cluster. He scored 5.1 grade equivalents on reading a passage and missing words. The reading fluency subtest measure indicated a score of 4.1 grade equivalents on reading sentences and determining statements of true and false. Math. He scored a 7.3 grade equivalents on mathematical computations and 3.8 grade equivalents on solving mathematical equations. Written language. He scored a 4.5 grade equivalent for writing clusters and 5.4 on the spelling subtests. Appellant has difficulty with organizing thoughts and presenting with attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Now, this is based on a test Andy took called the Woodcock-Johnson Psychoeducational Battery. Woodcock-Johnson. You might as well just call it the penis test. I'm sorry. I'm a child. Now, look, I don't know if any of these scores are, like, good or bad. I did see that this is how their tests were scored, at least like by today's standards, so make of that what you will. If anyone is familiar with teaching or knows what this test is, please feel free to educate me, because I don't know.
At the age of 19 and 10 months, which continued to indicate low average intelligence and borderline skills in numerical reasoning, concentration, short-term auditory memory, and visual motor speed. Appellant was rated in the at-risk range, with areas of concern as police involvement, academic underachievement, and disruptive behavioral problems. Furthermore, this report was finalizing the graduation plan for June 2005.
So, Andy would never actually graduate from high school. And I bring all of this up because I don't think Andy's childlike behavior is an act. Sort of. There is reason to believe that he is a little slow-minded based off his own medical history, and it's reasonable to believe his outbursts are due to a real problem going on. But where his behavior becomes unusual, outside of like the diaper stuff, is Andy's entitlement and what he's willing to do to get what he wants. I have tried to be fair and empathetic to the Ditch family thus far because I can't imagine what it's like dealing with someone this explosive in their nature and just seeing how gross he is in general. But part of this is like living with the monster they kind of created.
Guys, I'm Andrew from eBest PCs here. I'm going to show you how to hook up a wireless network into an existing single connection computer internet connection. So what you're going to need is a wireless modem, a cable modem or DSL modem, something like this here. This here happens to be a Motorola Surfboard SB6141, which is a DOCSIS 3 cable modem that can support...
Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me bring that back one more time.
I want to get my sneakers, Dad, so I can go run away. Please, I want to get my sneakers since you fucking called me a fucking fake! And you hurt me! I want to get my sneakers, please!
I know I said Andy used to have some independence before, but him living out on his own was heavily due to his mother still supporting him financially. I mean, he was terribly bad with his money, spending most of it on whatever random shit he can get from Amazon. In the beginning of Andy's bathroom issues, his mother did help him with his diapers and changing them until she started making him do it himself, to which Andy heavily complains about, to the point that he has actually tried to get legal counsel to try to get his parents to legally change his diapers for him.
Is here to say, hey, I want you to help me with this. I have this to show I need help. That I don't want help. I have this right here, my speech reports, that names my father as my caregiver. I gave that to him to ask him for help. Dad abuses me.
He tries to get court orders against his family to be his legal aid. All of this so that they have to treat Andy like a baby according to the law. Andy has called the police on his parents every time he doesn't get his way. Based on what his father has even said, he has called the police and social services well over 400 times. But what happens when he doesn't get that help? Well, that's when Andy's behavior goes into extremes. This would include a pretty infamous clip that was posted by his brother Joe Ditch. So Joe is an interesting character because even though he's equally in a state of hoarding and living in disarray, I would say that he's more stable than his other family members are. Joe, unlike his parents, doesn't enable Andy's behavior. He's been a working force against his own brother. Like, for instance, this clip he shared with the internet of what a typical Andy Ditch meltdown looks like. I am going to give a fair warning because there is self-harm in these clips, which is just Andy bashing his head up against the back wall that he's leaning up against. And if that is distressing for you, I would skip this part.
I asked you to help me! I'm tired of it, Dad! You keep promising me! Oh my head! Oh my head! My head! I'm gonna kill myself! I don't want to be in your house anymore!
He wants to be
I don't want you to be in your house anymore! You won't help me!
According to Andy's reports, Joe has been the driving source of hostility and conflict. He and Andy have fought constantly over the years, both verbal altercations and physical. And at this point, I can't even really blame Joe for being on the offense all the time with his brother, because Andy feels really entitled to Joe's personal space. Here's another clip shared by Joe of a typical altercation with Andy Ditch. The reason why they're fighting is because Joe is trying to get ready for bed. It's 2 a.m. and Andy feels the need to do this for some reason.
I feel depressed when you say things that are not true or accurate because I don't see you downstairs around me to see or hear the help I had or what Dad does to me. I like it if you cannot say things you don't know about. I want to be clear to your new
It makes you look
Joe.
like a
Joe is the only person that doesn't put up with his brother's antics and seems to be the only person standing up for his parents. And hopefully one day he will be the driving force that convinces his parents to cut Andy off. Because when Andy isn't calling his parents abusive, he's letting them lay on the floor when they fall down. He is destroying their property and making a mess of their home. He's tampering with their vehicles, and he is actively trying to poison them.
A man from the city of Tonawanda faces 3 felony charges accused of
spiking his family's food with dangerous levels of Epsom salts and laxatives.
Investigators say Andrew Ditch put the laxatives into their food and in the coffee maker where the water is stored.
Family members complained of nausea, abdominal pain, and severe diarrhea. Police say this all started in late October, and they're not saying anything about a possible motive. Ditch now faces a number of charges, including 2 counts of attempted assault. He's been arraigned in court and bail is set at $5,000.
So, this video hasn't been very fun, obviously. And that's because Andy Ditch is not a very fun individual to be talking about. Because on November 7th of 2019, Andrew Ditch was arrested and charged with 3 felonies and 3 misdemeanors after spiking the coffee and food of his family members
with laxatives and Epsom salt. This obviously isn't the first time he's attempted to kill a family member.
In this particular clip, his father, Tom Ditch, discusses how Andy had once tried to poison his coffee with antifreeze.
I'm on the way home, I feel real lousy, I was gonna die or pass out or whatever. I finally get back to Buffalo, and I didn't even make it back to Grand Island. I wound up going to St. Joe's emergency room, and they took a blood test, and my doctor came back and told me, you're lucky to be alive. I says, what do you mean? He says, not only did someone put antifreeze in your coffee, but they put three different sleeping pills in it. And right away I told Andy, look, this is one thing I'm always scared about, even when I go to a restaurant or anything, walking away from there, that somebody could do something to tamper with your food. Yep. And I says, and here, you might be doing it. And then he started laughing, oh, you really do it, dude, I'm doing it. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute,
There is no excuse for this. Most of Andy's homicidal behavior towards his family was mostly contained within his childhood years. But this was when he was 34. As is reported, it's one of those bizarre things Tonawanda Police Captain Frederick Foles told the Buffalo News. The family came to us and they were having all these episodes after they ate or had coffee, and they thought he was spiking the food. Detectives did their investigation. They followed evidence of the Epsom salts and the magnesium and the laxatives, which led to Andrew Ditch doing these things. I can only imagine with Andy's obsession with poop that this is a solution that he is very familiar with. At least enough so that he knew the effect it could have on his family. What's crazy about all of this is that Andrew Ditch has an order of protection against him from his family. But this order of protection is weird because the responding officer who was interviewed for this article says that he actually knew about the protection order and knows the family well because he had been called out there several times before. According to Frederick Foles, the order of protection was put in place so that Andrew could technically live with his parents still, he just couldn't cause any outburst or anything. Now, this just begs the question, like, why is this person, like, not in prison permanently? Like, okay, maybe it's a love thing, because every time his parents claim that they want to press charges, or every time they report Andy's criminal behavior, he still ends up right back in their house. That's their son, and they still love him. Andy is still living with his parents to this day, despite the multiple violent attempts and threats on their lives. I mean, the police have arrested Andy before. They are capable of taking him out of the home. And yet his parents always make his bail and take him back in. If the parents don't want to press charges on Andy, then I'm sure social services would have a very good cause to press charges. Not to mention that one time that Andy had spit on a medical worker. I mean, that in and of itself would be considered assault. Or hell, maybe the police officer that Andrew doxed could sue him. Or any of his neighbors, since Andrew has filmed the neighbor's house and posted that information on the internet, doxing his neighbors as well. Or how about all the times he wasted police resources and time? Or when he doesn't get what he wants from social services, he makes death threats on their answering machine. I wouldn't even be shocked if eventually they're just gonna stop showing up or answering his calls. And the police aren't falling for this shit anymore. Social services have already denied him access to any of their services. So once Andy loses all of his resources that he's been abusing to get his way, what is he gonna do then? Will he do something worse? I mean, he already kinda has, and it's just so concerning. So why don't they just arrest him? Lock him up, throw away the key, put him in a fucking mental ward. Literally anything is better than the alternative. I mean, his parents are getting too old to put up with this shit. And when they pass away, what the fuck is Andy gonna do then? His brother isn't gonna put up with him. Andy's only solution is to either get himself into a group home, which considering all the times that he's walked out of hospitals and cursed at social service workers, I doubt that's ever gonna happen. Or the more productive thing to do at this point is just grow the fuck up. Take some responsibility and, get your fucking ass up and work. And I don't even mean like get a job. I mean like work on himself, because not only is chalking him up to autism a disgrace to people who are diagnosed with autism, but also it could be severely downplaying something more serious that's going on. Andy has had treatments for PTSD or schizoaffective disorder, either one, which are more severe than just having autism. And I don't think Andy is trying to say that he's autistic to try to trick people or fool his parents and social services or whatever. I honestly just think that he's in denial. He doesn't want to treat what's actually going on. And I mean, like, I get it, sort of. I mean, there is a possibility of brain damage, PTSD, ADHD, a learning disability, or schizoaffective disorder. Maybe just all chalking it up to autism is better, more manageable, it's less complicated. But I think regardless of all of that, I don't think that excuses poisoning his parents with Epsom salts and laxatives, or trying to poison his father with antifreeze. I mean, honestly, after all the times that you have tried to poison your family, you act surprised that they're not more sympathetic or believe in your diagnosis of autism. Like, why would they? Your definition of autism is shitting yourself and expecting your parents to change your dirty diapers. I mean, it's just insulting. I know people both in my personal life and online that have autism. And this is just a suspicion on my part, but I'm sure that there's viewers out there watching this right now who are fans of mine who are on the spectrum as well. And I'm sure that you guys are very capable of having productive and meaningful lives. I mean, is it going to be a challenge? Sure, but if you guys need, like, better autism representation that isn't this fucking lunatic, let me give a shout out to my brother real quick. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen Shane before. Shane was diagnosed with autism. Originally, it was Asperger's, but I understand that that's, like, a very controversial and problematic diagnosis, so let's keep it simple. He's on the high end of the spectrum. Shane has his problems. I mean, he's not a perfect person. I mean, he hasn't fucked up as badly as Andy Ditch, but he deals with his own struggles. But to tackle these demons, Shane's been going to church more. He's part of a church group. And being part of this church group has helped him learn to socialize more. I mean, he's made, like, a ton of friends through the church and through kickboxing. This is what Shane looked like a few years ago, and this is how he looks now. The transformation of which has never ceased to amaze me. I think that there should be better representation in general for all people out there, whether you're a different ethnic or racial background than myself, you're LGBTQ, have mental health issues, physical disabilities. Everyone deserves a fair, proper representation in their lives. When I hear people talk about autism, I want people to think about my brother. I want good, honest people to be the new example for the internet. Not people like Chris Chan or Daniel Larson or Andy Ditch. Even if Andrew Ditch isn't mentally ill, if his mental health wasn't even considered a factor in all of this, what he has done and what he's currently doing to his family is wrong. He should be treated like a threat and a monster that he has always truly been. When I think of someone with autism, I want to think of my brother. I don't want to think about the liar, manipulator, pedophile defending, shit-throwing nuisance that is Andrew Ditch. I think Andrew Ditch will remain detestable and irredeemable. And I recognize that that's really sad. I don't like saying that someone is beyond redemption. I understand that to some capacity, Andy probably never stood a chance given how shit the mental health care system in America is. But at the same time, he needs to take personal responsibility because eventually Andy won't have anyone to turn to. And I fear that day more than anything because that's when things will go from bad to worse. If his parents even stick around for that long, who knows? But if they do stick around, they're the ones that's gonna get hurt. Regardless that they are unreliable narrators themselves or somewhat enable Andy's behavior, they don't deserve this. And I hope his parents finally do realize that they deserve better. That the rest of their lives, however long it is, doesn't have to stay this way forever. And I really hope Andy realized that it doesn't have to be this way forever for him too. But from the way things are looking, there's probably not going to be any sort of change anytime soon. Thanks for watching, and I'm sorry. Take it as a courtesy thing, you know, because I had to expose you guys to a lot of shit. Maybe I'll talk about like a funny lolcow next time, you know, maybe someone who isn't a pedophile or a diaper lover. But then again, most lolcows just devolve into horror cows, so like, it's gonna be a little hard. Also, reminder, I have a Patreon where you guys get a special little thank you character drawing, which I still haven't done because I still don't have my tablet replaced. I'm sorry, I'm working on it. You also get access to a request form for videos, and we get to vote on like video topics that you guys suggest. So you should totally support the new $5 tier. That would be great. But that's gonna be it for me. I'm the Lazy Rancher, and I live on a farm. There's always gonna be cows out to the end.